So without further ado, I'd like to invite Satya Jayadev, Vice President and CIO, Skyworks Solution, Dan Hedstrom, VP and Chief Information Officer, Cubic, Dan Ladder, CIO, Impact Mortgage, Jeffrey Ratter, CIO, Planet Home Lending. All right, so Satya, again, 2 minutes or less. Background about yourself and your organization, the top challenge you're facing, which is holding you back in your position as an IT leader from helping business meet the digital agenda.
All right, I'm Satya Jayadev. I'm the CIO for Skyworks. Skyworks is a semiconductor organization. I mean, if you've got a mobile phone, we've got our chipsets in it. Any carrier, or I'm sorry, any like a manufacturer. So we also manufacture IoTs. We also manufacture. We are into a diversified portfolio as well. So anywhere you see a chipset, be it aerospace, automotive, we've got some of our chipsets sitting in there. Digital transformation. So this is. So with regards to what are we facing, so this is like an Alcoholics Anonymous. We all have similar problems, and here we are sitting here and talking about it. So I think the biggest problem that we face is data. So we hadn't imagined a day when we thought we would need a data organization within IT in terms of what do we do with the data? How do we process this data? How do we give the business the insights and the foresight that they need in making decisions? And as CIOs, I think our biggest problem is how do we start mining this data? How do we cater it to the different groups? Years ago, manufacturing used to be where we used to push data or push like systems across. But now there's so much pull. There's a B2B expectation in a B2B world. And so we are trying to see how do we fix this problem? How do we take this forward? And maybe we'll talk more about this in a few minutes.
So you're saying data management is your top challenge that you're tackling. Okay. Sir.
I'm Jeff Ratter, the CIO at Planet Home Lending. We're a national mortgage company. I've got about 60 offices across the U.S. And like everybody else, our challenge is, digital transformation and what defining what that journey is for us. Everybody in here probably has heard the term push button, get mortgage. Rocket Mortgage coined that phrase, and the reality is that our industry's been struggling with it for 20 years, trying to figure out how to go from I want to buy a house to actually registering the deed with the county. And this nirvana of we can do the whole thing digitally, and it's not going to take 30 days. We can get this thing done in 24 hours. And we're not there yet. And so the struggle for us is, I'm going to steal a little bit of what Pete said earlier, is finding the value in the digital transformation. And all along that process, what are the areas that we can take advantage of? And so one of our, because the doors are closed, one of our failures was, we tried to tackle the whole thing. And we looked at every single phase, and we laid out a huge plan, and we told the company that we're going to spend $7 million and we're going to save 13 the first year doing it. And so in one particular instance, we decided to link up with IBM on their Bluemix platform for their data cap project, because we wanted all of the loan docs to be able to come in from people, your bank statements, your tax forms, and we wanted this system to automatically read it. AI was going to read everything. It was going to index it. All of our people offshore that were doing this job, we wouldn't need them anymore, and we were going to dramatically lower our costs. The only way we could do that is if it was 98% accurate. And after about 4 months of trial, we couldn't get it above 75, and it was a complete failure.
So when you're saying finding value in digital transformation, is that finding value or showing it to your business so they allow you to do what you want to do? Where is the...
I think in this case it was delivering it. We thought we found the value, and we thought we had the right product, and we thought we had everything in place, and it just didn't work.
Okay, so delivering the digital transformation dream is where you're stuck.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Hello, Dan Hedstrom from Cubic Corporation. We're probably a company that you've used our products but haven't heard of the name. We operate in two main markets, aerospace and defense. On the aerospace and defense side, think like things secure communications, or everyone's seen Top Gun. We make those fighter pilot simulations. On the other side of the business, transportation, if you've taken major transportation in New York, London, here in San Diego, LA, Chicago, in any large city around the globe, we do the fare collection technology. So we make and manufacture the fare collection technology from the back office to what we consider the front office, those devices, those gates that sit out in the transportation platforms. We also manufacture that technology, or operate the technology on a daily basis, where we do about $50 to $60 million a day in fare collection. One of the biggest challenges we have in two highly regulated areas, on the defense side, meeting compliance requirements that the DoD puts in place. On the transportation side, meeting compliance requirements around how we do management of PII for these very geographically distributed locations. So in Europe, managing the GDPR. In California, we now have different compliance requirements to meet. New York's different. We have to manage this vast amounts of data that is sitting out there, secure it, and also meet the compliance requirements of each of those locales, and in addition, show compliance to it and ensure there is no breach.
When you say this, is compliance a problem or a constraint? Because
That's
it's
the
like a
question.
leave it to God
Yeah.
problem,
Yeah.
right? You cannot do anything about it. You have to live with it. Nothing that you can crack. So would you still call that as a problem? Because what we are here to discuss is specific area, which is in your control, on which you can work and finally say, guys, this is converted from a project problem to a project, and I'm going to be good. 2 years down, I come and shake your hands. You say, man, this is not a problem anymore. That is not going to be the case with compliance.
It's both a constraint and a challenge. We want to become more open. Think mobile. When we do a transaction to open a gate at a given in London, that transaction has to transmit information to many other third parties for that credit card transaction to process. We want to become more interoperable with other third parties. So think like things like Waze or Uber. We want to have the ability to integrate those and be that single wallet for all of our customers, and that ability to be more open but ensure we're still meeting those compliance requirements. It's a challenge. It's difficult.
So basically, you're going to say third-party integrations is your challenge, which you're going to grapple with or are grappling with. That's on you as a person.
It is, correct.
Okay, good.
Thanks. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm the second Dan on this panel and also the second CIO of a mortgage company, so I'm going to need to figure out a way to differentiate myself. So more about that in just a second. But again, Dan Lader, and I'm the CIO of Impact Mortgage, which is a publicly traded mortgage originator that's headquartered in Irvine. We do about $5 billion per year in origination. So what does that mean? That's about 18,000 loans, and so about 1,500 loans get originated and funded through our platform on a monthly basis. What's my connection to San Diego? I don't have one, so this has really been a great event for me to get to meet folks out here in the room and to expand the network and share ideas. But my connection in a distant fashion is that from a sporting perspective, my favorite sport is cycling and triathlon, but my favorite sport to watch is baseball. I used to live in Washington, D.C., so my team is the Nationals. Any Nationals fans out there? But the connection is that their star pitcher who won the game last night, Steven Strasburg, went to San Diego State, was born and raised in San Diego, and better than that, I was at his very, very first game as a professional in 2010 when he struck out 14 batters in D.C., and it was one of the most exciting things I've seen from a sporting perspective. So sorry to go off topic, but back to the topic at hand. So as far as challenges are concerned, I hate to say it because it's very cliche-ish, but it's people, process, and technology, right? And I find that process and technology, we can always overcome that. It's surmountable. But the people part of what I do is extremely challenging. And the two biggest challenges there are really level of business engagement and business sponsorship. And those are the challenges that, frankly, beyond things like cybersecurity, really keep me up at night and where I spend a lot of my day trying to overcome.
So level of business engagement from the business community.
And sponsorship, yes.
And sponsorship, okay. All right, Satya, data management. Since it's a problem, you recognize it. What did you try to do, say in the last year? What new, more or different strategies or techniques you tried? What worked, what did not work, and where are you specifically struggling?
So I think the biggest change that we did was to move away from technology. I know that being a CIO, I'm saying that we are moving away from technology. What I'm talking about is we are moving away from execution. We are more focused on enablement. There's a big difference there. So what we did was we are very lean, and I'm sure most of you are too. So the biggest change that we did was to see how could we create a thought leadership within IT. How could I get IT to go spend more time with the business? Because to understand the data, you need to understand the business. And I think so what we did was we gravitated IT more towards the business, and we said leave the enablement to somebody else. We have people who do this for a living, and our core competency is not software. We're not going to be creating hackathons and create people or bring people who can code for us. We wanted people who can bring in ideas and solutions to the table. So we started off with an embedded IT approach where we sat with the business. So IT finance today sits with finance. IT supply chain sits with supply chain. So we sat with the business, we started speaking their language, we started participating in their meetings, and I think that started to drive a lot of engagement, a lot of knowledge in terms of what the business does, and we gave the enablement away to people who can do that for us. So take RPA, right? We actually gave away the enablement of RPA. We don't have anybody in our staff who knows about what UiPath or RPA can actually do or actually basically code in UiPath. The same thing with AI, the same thing with ML. All we needed to have was a very high level knowledge of what the tool can bring to the organization. So we sat more with the business, we started ideating with them, we started thinking about the possibilities. The art of possibilities is what we wanted to think about. And then we started engaging with the providers or with our partners to say, hey, this is what we've got. Can you help us enable this? And we would hand it over to them, and then we start sitting again with the business to say, what else can we do? So the intent was to say, let us understand the business, and then once we start seeing the data, how do we start bringing the data to our customers in terms of visualizations, or how do we show you what you can what you can do with the actual data that you've got. So it was a fundamental shift in terms of how we saw technology. So I said, IT technology, IT is information technology. We will separate ourselves from technology. We'll focus on the information aspect of it, and it's been very successful. So as we see more and more IT folks, as you go into a meeting, you will not be able to differentiate who's IT and who's a business because it's now so seamless in terms of how we do it. And this is starting to see and we are seeing some rewards now. But this is going to be a very, very long journey, right? I mean, digital transformation, the most abused words that I've ever seen in today's time that, people talk about digital transformation, but everyone has its own, they have their own definition in terms of what they mean about it. So we clearly moved away from that. We said, we'll work on digitalization, we'll work on enablement, and maybe together at some point in time, they will be called a digital transformation because that will affect our business model. Again, it's a long journey, right? We need to keep hacking our way through. But the most important change that we did, to answer your question, was to move away from technology execution part of it and focus more on the enablement, side of things.
Where is your struggle still?
Our struggle is, again, with understanding the business. The business moves so fast. And so we are a group of about 130 individuals, right? We're all in different areas. The struggles, again, has been in terms of engaging with our customer. There is a lot of pull. We're not able to contain that. We see the need for something or the other every day. And it's just
so is it demand management?
Demand management is definitely one. But then the data too. We've got terabytes and petabytes of data. How do we start using this data? So we created a data function within IT. So we have somebody in IT now who can organize the data, build data marts, build data lakes for the business. Again, the building of that is not easy unless you know the business in and out. And that's the struggle.
So your holy grail will be that you become proactive. You have a control on anything comes your way. You know it's coming, number one. And if it is coming, you are kind of prepared for it, right? That's
Absolutely.
Your holy grail, right?
Absolutely.
But you are a little farther from it, and that's the work in progress.
Correct.
Okay. Coming back to audience members, specific actionable advice to that end, to that struggle, to whatever else that he's trying to do, what more or different you will try to do to move forward? Anyone? What advice would you give?
Nobody can help me.
All right, here you go.
I think you said that you pulled people from IT and put them in the business. Have you thought about taking people from the business and bringing them into IT?
Well, I think in a way, what's the difference? I mean, the impact of having IT in the business is just that you can see the leader of the business. You also see their operational folks. You also see their key like the strategists in terms of what they want to do with the business. So they get to see the whole spectrum of that business. It's hard to bring somebody from the business into IT. However, we are working on educating them in terms of what technology can do for them. So we do have these Excite days where we bring in people to say, hey, look what a PLM solution can do for you. We invite vendors to come in, and we call business community to kind of sit with us and say, look what this tool can do for us. Mukund mentioned it a few minutes ago about a video going viral. So we put together a 1-minute RPA video, and we said, look what an RPA tool can do for you. And we took it across the business, and we said, take a look at that. And that went really viral, right? Everybody started talking to us. The demand rose again. People said, I want to have this, I have that. And the amount of things that we had to automate started going over the roof. And I think that's the other part of business coming to IT and seeing what we can do. But it's us going to and sitting with the business is what is helping us a lot because we see the entire spectrum of that business.
Okay, sir.
You certainly have a unique solution to that.
I'm a very unique guy, so.
But I think you hit on one of the critical points within IT. IT traditionally has been a service organization where we delivered things to people. But to be able to deliver a solution to the client, to our customer, we need to understand their business. And that has not happened for a long time. Part of the solution is, you've taken it to one end of the spectrum where you have become part of the business. But to develop that relationship, what I stress with my folks is you need to know the business. You need to develop a relationship and know your customers really well and be part of their business. Otherwise, how can you deliver a solution to them that will be useful to them?
Absolutely.
Data is so critical today, and one of the things in building, whether it's a data warehouse or a data mart or a business intelligence environment, is to implement what's called data governance. And if you don't do that, whatever you implement will be totally useless. That's been my experience over the last few years.
Okay, his specific struggle was around demand management, if I remember. Any thoughts, ideas on getting better at demand management and become, at least you should be ready and you would have already geared up. You can see it on the horizon, plan for it effectively, more than what he's able to do today. Any thoughts?
I can share with you what we do.
Okay, yeah, that's how it's going to be, not just ideas, but something you're implying.
So what we have decided to do is we actually have a meeting with the business, and all the projects are out in the open, and then it's kind of prioritized based on their thoughts and decisions. There's usually like a cost-benefit analysis on each of them, but it really kind of lays out like, it's not really IT throwing something down your throat. It's really a decision that the business has made, and IT is enabling it.
Okay.
So we have a similar steering committee, cross-functional business department represents this steering committee, and all the projects, all the demands are presented there, along with we have a specific template. We like to know what the ROI and what is the effort required.
So what you've done is hallway conversations don't become expectations,
That is
because
correct.
that's what
Yes.
could be happening, which is what they are trying to say. That's not happening. Anything which has to become a project has to go through a
has to
steering
come to the
committee.
steering committee, and steering committee has to prioritize it. And they can change the priority on a project which is in
So
front.
you're talking about an enterprise PMO, right? And I think
Kind
that's
of, yes,
that
yeah.
is something. Yeah, we do have that too. So, but again, it's all about cutting the red tape there, and I don't want it to all go through that. I think
Right.
the intent is to say, how can we make it happen as quick as possible?
Right.
So,
So what happened is, I did the same thing. I've been with Greg for 1.5 years, and prior to I joined, I think there was not much trust in IT from a business. They really didn't trust IT. So they thought IT is just a OpEx cost center. They just keep the lights on. They doesn't do anything else. So what I did is, I tried to ask my leaders, my partners, my directors, who are all your SMEs who know the system, what they are using. They didn't have an answer. I said, okay, let me help them. So I organized a training program for them to identify the SMEs. So what happened is they got trained, and then now they started giving me the demand. So why are we not using this? Why are we not using that? So I'm in the same problem as you, but I'm trying to ask the business again that, you have to prioritize it, because we are such a small team, we can do only so much. So you tell me, what is your priority? Where is the value?
Okay, we'll move on in the interest of time, but this is very important, not only to just get the solutions, but also understand, if you peel the onion, what kind of problems you have to deal with, and that makes you think. Okay, quick one. Yeah, before we
One
move.
thing I did was, because I had a 5-year strategic plan, I asked the business, what is your 5-year strategic plan? Because I can't make one and align it with you if I don't know what's yours. So that way
Correct.
I was able to
yeah,
get them
and
to-
I built mine with the business, so I don't have a IT's 5 years. Our 5-year plan is very much mimicking what the business has in mind.
Okay. Jeff, digital transformation related delivery. Tell us what the obvious things a lot of people may have done. What have you done different to crack this problem which you're dealing with?
I think, from the example that I was talking about, one of the things we did is we went back and we looked at the whole process and said, okay, we can't boil the ocean. Let's go look for the quick wins. And so we launched our Apple and Android app. We went on the back end and said, nobody wants to sit at a table and sign 250 documents. Let's sign up with DocuTech. Let's get e-notary service and digitize that piece of it. And so we kind of went back and said, okay, we might have failed at this one piece, but here's 4 other areas that we can actually tackle. And in some cases, we just moved on from the things that we couldn't do, and other times we engaged other vendors and still went down the path.
When you said this is very interesting, that did you give up saying that we moved away from things we couldn't do and so it's not being done?
We did.
Okay. So is that what you would call a struggle, that we should not be doing this anymore?
Our struggle was, we could have given up on everything, I guess, but we went and we got the quick wins, and we still enhance the customer experience, but we're not there yet. We still have a ways to go.
Suggestions, thoughts, inputs from the audience members to this end. Help him out. $2,000 an hour consulting. Now everybody's laughing, right? $2,000.
I think what you're basically doing is saying, think big, plan for the big picture, and implement incrementally. So don't give up totally. If you have a 5-year plan and attack it on a 6-month, 1-year basis, I think the user will know what you're trying to deliver, you will know what you're trying to deliver, and you will have those quick wins and show results. And I think that goes a long way.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll keep talking about your challenge after this panel. Dan Hedstrom. Third-party integrations is what within the compliance ecosystem or compliance-heavy ecosystem, how do you get different people to come together? How do you run your open connectivity, your open systems, right? What did you do?
So I think it starts way back in product development. So because we're developing products that we're ultimately running or supplying to customers, we have to think about this from a more holistic security approach. So start back in product development to incorporate security through the whole life cycle of a product. So something that is probably relatively new in the industry, relatively new, 5 to 10 years back. We didn't think about security, but now it's part of the entire life cycle, from when you first have the inception of a product out to delivery and out to the maintain phase of it.
Okay, so you went back to the product development and you brought the security thing, but are you able to make some positive and definite strides so you can say, I made progress of last year versus this year? What's your progress? How
So
far?
we do map, we have an internal maturity model that we map for our various products and programs. And you can see progress on, did we incorporate the right standards? Did we incorporate the right controls through the life cycle of project, both from an operational aspect as well as just the cybersecurity components within a given product or piece of software.
Okay. Where would you say your struggle is? You gave the mega struggle and you worked on some things, but which one would you say, if got solved, you will sleep better?
Yeah, so changes. So this is an evolving area, well, probably for everyone in this room, that the compliance requirements are changing. The different attack vectors to get into various systems is changing, and it's not something that you have time to go back and re-architect. You have to fight with this on a daily basis.
Okay. Suggestions. If compliance requirements are changing, you're trying to change the tires of a moving vehicle. That's what you're suggesting, right? That's the challenge. Anyone who has tamed this beast, even partially? Any ideas, anything that you've tried which has moved the needle for you, even partially? Yes, sir.
So I had a project where we had to do a hospital. It was just a fun thing I was doing for my buddy. He was the actual tech director of the hospital. And we asked if the vendors would sign liability agreements. And some of the big ones actually said yes. Like Microsoft signed a $5 million one for health records. Because I think he told me each health record that leaked was a $10,000 fine. Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, so we have mechanisms in our contracts for third-party suppliers. We have a whole supply chain process that incorporates cybersecurity, and depending on contract values and so forth, we flow down those T's and C's to the customer. But it's not necessarily about that monetary impact. It's about Cubic's reputation, regardless whether it's a third-party supplier. Granted, those T's and C's, we can flow down to that supplier and recoup that single incident cost, but the impact to our reputation has a longer term cost that's hard to deal with.
Okay, go ahead.
But if you're like public about how you're improving and just provide knowledge to the public that you serve, like, hey, this is what we do. Like USA, for example, they have like a 98% satisfactory rate.
Yep.
And I don't know exactly what their soup of success is, but I believe as like a customer, anytime I have any issues, I just go to them, and they're always telling me like, hey, we're doing XYZ, we're doing this, we're doing that, and like the customer service on the phone knows that.
So we each one of our contracts has some pretty specific requirements around it. I mean, think simple things from ISO 27001 to how we do operations related to ISO 20K. We flow all those down directly to put them in the purview of the customer, show our certifications and so forth. But it's as soon as if an incident was to occur, it wouldn't be about did you meet that compliance requirement. It would be about Cubic lost a piece of business because of this massive breach. It would be a significant impact.
Any other ideas? Okay. People. So the Dan 2.
Thank you.
Right? So people, and in context of people, you said level of business engagement and sponsorship, right? So the underpinning of that could be relationships, it could be credibility, it could be the very ROI perception of what you're trying to pitch. Where did you feel the underpinning was? What did you do to nail it?
Sure, thanks. So it's all of the above, D. And so a few thoughts related to this. I think as technologists, we all want to be innovative and we don't want to be just order takers, but I've tried to change the culture and mindset of my team so that they don't come up with these, I call them whiz-bang ideas. So in other words, don't have the solution and look for a business problem, really think about the business and how you can make a positive impact. So there's no sort of definitive answer on that. We do have a budget that's targeted towards more innovative type ideas, but again, it's really trying to change the culture and the mindset to how do we focus on the business and not just look for problems that we have solutions for. Secondly, and we touched upon this with the WD-40 example, is just related to the overall, and to your company as well, the whole prioritization process. So previously I've been in my role for about a year and a half, and I took on more responsibility than I should have as it related to the prioritization of major technology projects and bringing those to the table. So a couple of things that we've changed are, one, we do an ROI, but instead of that ROI being developed within the technology organization, we partner with FP&A, so we have an independent view of that. Number two is that each and every project has to have a business sponsor, and that business sponsor and myself or one of my team leads has to come to the table to the steerco to jointly present that project in order to get approval to move forward. And then the third item that I would reference is, and I think about the book that Shirin referenced, which is All In, which is something that I learned from one of my previous bosses, which is that when we do have a significant issue, and in my case we had a 6-hour outage a week ago Monday, I've got the relationship with the vendor who is responsible for that outage, and in the past I would have just tackled that situation by myself, but I reached out to my business partner, the COO, who is dramatically impacted by that outage, and I brought her to the table so that she and I together dealt with the vendor to make sure that she had some sense of accountability and that she was also leaning into the problem and helping to resolve it together. So those are a few thoughts that I have.
So you've tried those and you've made progress?
Have made progress. It's a work in process. We're not.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. Any specific area where it is still a sore thumb?
I think the challenges that we still have are when you do have a project that starts to go off the rails and all of a sudden that all-in, leaning in doesn't exist anymore, and the business starts to step away and miss status meetings and so on and so forth. And so again, I'm trying to drive that joint accountability, but that's been a challenge that I haven't quite nailed as of yet.
Any ideas from the audience?
So I'll pitch in really quick. You spoke about innovation, right? I think we kind of grapple with that too, because as a publicly listed company, innovation, they look at an ROI for every single innovation. So the money that they invest is always looked upon as, okay, what did I get out of it? And I think this is something that we've been driving within the organization, is that look at it from a venture capitalist's outlook, right? You're going to invest in 10 of those projects. 8 of those will fail, but you'll be successful in 2 of those, which will help you pay back for some of the things that you've already done. I think that's the mindset that we need to shift, especially in companies like ours, where the intent is always that, what's my ROI? If you look at a project and if you look at the ROI component of it, you're not going to be able to innovate at all. And especially since IT is not our core competency is semiconductors. The intent again for us is to say, how do we bring in a venture capitalist mindset? And this is a cultural change, this is a leadership change too. Because we need to look at our leaders and say, can you look at this from my perspective to say that you're going to invest money into this, we will fail, but we'll fail fast and we'll fail forward, so at least it will help us to innovate. It'll help us to build a good strength in terms of thought leadership, right? I think that's the thing that we've started pushing to the business, and that's starting to make some changes here and there.
So you're trying to suggest that they lead the business into thinking that way?
Correct.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay. So we will close with one last thing, which is not about technology, it's about you folks as individuals. What's that one thing that you will fix in you, which you may be working on? You may know, as I said, all leaders can accept their vulnerabilities. What's that one thing you will fix in you which will make you a better you as a leader to crack the problems that you are going to face?
This is why I should be sitting as the first person.
I can start from the other side if that's what
okay.
you want. Right.
I think it is intuition, right? I think years of experience gets converted into intuition. And I'm a very analytical person. Like sometimes I lose a lot of conversations because of that, because we're talking about something, and as he was talking too, I caught on that innovation aspect of it, and I was thinking, how do we do it? But then I lost some of the other points. And this always happens to me. I'm very open to admit it. In fact, in my interviews, I say that this is my biggest weakness, is that I'm very analytical. That I start thinking about solutions before I can even start thinking about, let me grasp the whole thing. So for me, it's all about intuition. How do I build my intuition? I've got years of experience, and some of these decisions need to be quick, and it needs to be intuitive. That's part of being a great leader, and I've been working on that. And I've been married for 18 years, and my intuition.
What has that got to do with logic?
It's the same thing as to how do I make quick decisions without thinking too much about it, and I think that's the thing that I always try to, and it's years of leadership, years of making decisions. It has to strike. You don't have to be thinking about it over and over again, and that's a personal thing that I am trying to fix. And it's embarrassing, but here I am sitting and talking about it. So,
Sir, and you don't need to go that long, and don't have to bring marriage into this. That's all right. You can just go short, 30 seconds or less.
For me, it's a little embarrassing, but it's okay. There's a lot of things that I think about, maybe not in terms of being analytical, but one of the things that I was talking to my wife the other night about was, we were watching Survivor, and I'm here to say in front of everybody in the room, I created Survivor 25 years ago. I thought it up. It was my idea. I didn't do anything about it. And so from an IT perspective, as I'm dozing off at night, there's a lot of things that I think about. There's a lot of things that it's a great idea that night. And then I wake up the next day and I just go back into work and kind of, all right, let's keep going. And so I want to become better at taking those ideas. Maybe I need to write them down at night and wake up the next morning and start knocking them out.
Great.
So hard to come up with just one fault, by the way, because I can relate to both of these. But I would say, so half of what we do is both a delivery to the enterprise as a enterprise IT organization, but also delivery as a commercial IT organization. We're actually considered a profit center for that portion of the delivery. And what I personally fail at is picking out those leading indicators when we need to change something on our commercial delivery. Making sure we're at the forefront of technology, making sure we're at the forefront to be able to communicate with externally to our customers to show them that we are an IT services organization. And picking up on those leading indicators on when the industry is changing is very difficult.
And where was your personal weakness that you mentioned, if you could distill that?
Sure. Me personally, being able to listen to the industry and watch for those changes and pick up on those nuances that the industry is changing so that we can change our delivery.
Okay.
Yep, thanks. So 2 thoughts. One is for triathlon, I need to work on my swim to bike transition, very slow. And secondly, so conveniently, I just went through a 360 analysis a couple of months ago, and I have a much longer laundry list of things to work on than I previously thought, but that's great. That's why we do these things. And what was at the top of the list for me was that, and I think this is because this is my first time in the CIO role, and I've been in it for about a year and a half. And so I'm really defensive about my team, our capabilities when issues occur. And I have a seat at the table, quite frankly, with the executive leadership team of the company. And so I need to really think much more broadly and how my team blends in to delivering solutions and not really worrying so much about our faults and when we screw up and not being defensive about that, but really being just a better partner in general.
What a fantastic discussion. Thank you.